And once it's plugged in, powered by you.
Is that Facebook?
Yeah, there's no light or anything to indicate.
Is that Facebook?
Well,
Can you please tell everybody that we're experiencing technical difficulty, that we're not just sitting around, we know the meeting has started.
yeah, how about you? I think it's record. You should record.
I'll do that.
Is the Zoom coming?
Sorry, yeah.
Actually, they might be.
Okay.
I think we have this one on. There's some push will get everybody in the same shot.
Oh.
Oh. Yep.
Okay, cool, thank you.
Perfect. Yep. Join.
Yeah. Email or having to.
Oh, thanks.
That's the only one. Is my mug on there?
Yeah, it's just
it's connecting.
That's awesome. Well done.
Works.
Well done.
Mine has a little slider so you can hide yourself.
Oh yeah, I want to get one of those.
Yep. Oh.
Oh, that's great.
We had it.
All right, camera ready, everyone?
Oh. I'll get my double chin.
I can give you a second mask.
Yeah, right. Can't see us.
Not showing up yet? Good, because I don't look at myself all the time. I wonder if it's... Does this be promoted a panelist or anything?
Oh, yeah, we have to become a, you have to let us in.
Oh, that's what it is. Yeah. I wonder who those people were. Yeah.
3 houses right from the middle. Recycling bin.
Okay, there it goes.
It was a calendar in the
Perfect.
That's awesome. That's cool.
Anything.
All right, almost there.
Oh.
Thank you. Video. Yeah, no problem. Thanks, Scott. It's the only one we could see.
There we go.
We'll get close. Okay.
Perfect.
Okay. And I think we're good to go.
Ah, we can see it.
Yep.
Okay, and just the council's on, great.
Okay, are we ready to go?
I think we are.
All right, are you guys ready? Yeah, okay, cool. Welcome all to the City Council Town Hall meeting Tuesday, November 30th, 2021 at 6:15. Close. This is a Zoom, Facebook Live Town Hall meeting. We are at Luck Library at 801 2nd Street in San Juan Bautista if anybody wants to come down and join us. This meeting will be open to the public under the following conditions. All attendees must comply and wear a face covering if not fully vaccinated and show proof. If providing proof, attendees will not need to wear a face covering. If you are exempt from the state face covering guidance or not fully vaccinated, you will be required to wear a face shield, which will be provided to attend the meeting. All attendees must comply with any other rules of procedures, instructions announced by the chair or the county staff or city staff. Any violations of the above may result in closing the meeting effectively immediately or clearing the room, as well as other enforcement actions. This meeting will be available through Zoom for those who wish to join or require accommodations with instructions below. This is the Zoom webinar access is 865-3568-0083. Okay, welcome. Pledge of Allegiance. Councilmember Friel.
Ready, begin?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. Deputy City Council, City Clerk, sorry, Trish, can you please do a roll call?
Yes, Councilmember Friel.
Here.
Councilmember Freeman.
Here.
Councilmember Edge.
Here.
Councilmember Flores.
Here.
Mayor Jordan.
Present.
Thank you.
Thank you. Discussion items. Town hall meeting to discuss the city's the water and wastewater rates. City manager.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the City Council. Really glad that we could do this meeting in person tonight. I think that was a great suggestion. Thank Andy Moore for that suggestion. Obviously, more than he were thinking that way. No pun intended. So I'm glad that you could be here tonight. I hope that we can begin to do this more in the future until we have the opportunity and time to fully equip our City Council chambers. In the meantime, this is a larger environment, and we've been successful at other community meetings here, and they have worked well. So thank you for your patience, and thank you to CMAP and to Paul Da Silva from Hollister. Believe it or not, this is the third time I think we've been trying to do this, and sure enough, a cable is bad. And so anyway, just wanted to express my gratitude a couple of days after Thanksgiving. I have about 20 slides to present. I'm going to have members of the city's technical team speak on a few issues tonight. We're going to discuss, well, I'll show that to my agenda and my staff report. Hopefully you've had a chance to see my staff report. I provided it to the city clerk Wednesday before Thanksgiving, and it's posted on our website. So let me go ahead and share my screen so you can see it. There we go. All right, there we go. Okay, so that's us, that's tonight. And that's usually my first slide. We did our best to provide outreach for this meeting. Recording in progress. Thank you. We put together flyers in Spanish and English. The flyer for tonight, we of course unable to make the utility bill because we were too late for the November utility bill, but this went out to as many places as we could, including social media. And we're currently advertising a public hearing December 14th to our utility bill. So the next step after this meeting will be the December 4th public hearing to discuss adoption of new sewer rates. But the purpose of this meeting is to have a dialogue. So my slides will only go, I hope, 20 minutes to half an hour, and then we'll have an hour or so to have a good conversation. So if you could postpone your questions until we get through our schedule, because then we'll get through it quickly, and there'll be more time to ask questions. So with that, this is the process that my staff report follows. Give you this, provide for you the status of the water and wastewater compliance projects and what that means. We have cost estimates now, which is really critical as of the end of October. Provide for you our potential funding sources. We're looking to a lot more than ratepayers to help fund these projects. And then discuss the actual potential rate increases. We have the senior project manager who helped us calculate proposed rate increases with us tonight. And then we'll talk about the public meeting schedule moving forward, and we'll talk about the project schedule moving forward. And those are actually the last two slides. So with that, we've been at this for 2 years since I started working here. We've been working on our water master plan and our wastewater master plan, and they were adopted 1 year ago, November. And from those two master plans, we asked the Tony Kell Engineering to prepare a preliminary engineer's report for the city, and it's called PER. And that's an acronym, the one acronym I'm going to use throughout this presentation. The PER is a detailed 65 to 80 page analysis of our options. We have this issue with violating our National Pollution Discharge Elimination System permit. Because we have that permit is because we discharge our effluent wastewater into a stream, the U.S. waterway. So the issue is, since 2007, we've accrued close to $1 million in violations with the water board, and they're calling us on it. They're saying you got to pay. And we had closed session, and that's all I can say last week, to discuss a settlement agreement with the water board, and we include another $12,000 in fines just last month. And we'll talk a little bit about the status of our current wastewater treatment system. But this preliminary engineer's report provides options both in importing fresh water, because our groundwater is so salty and hard that we're often using groundwater that already violates our permit limits. And in working with the growers, I'm talking to them, so we're only sending domestic water, but your groundwater is too strong. For example, sodium is a limit of 250 milligrams per liter, and they're taking groundwater with 1,400 milligrams per liter, flushing the toilet and sending it to us. So we're on top of these issues now where we weren't before. We've been studying this and working on it. The preliminary engineer's report then describes what happens if we improve our wastewater plant, what happens if we bring in new equipment and install it there and try reverse osmosis and other systems, and what happens if we try other things. The EPA compelled the city to agree to an administrative order on consent August 18th, 2000. And in that compliance agreement, we agreed to select projects that would solve our problem. And so in October 2020, the city council met in several town hall meetings and discussed which of these preliminary report options best suits us. And it's a combination of importing water from the West Hills treatment plant, which I'll talk about in a little more detail later. The San Benito County Water District is our partner in that project. And then exporting our wastewater to Halsey. So that way, if we export our water to Halsey, I'll describe the benefits of that in just a minute. We have a memorandum of understanding signed with both the city of Hollister, September 7th, and a memorandum of understanding signed in February of this year with the water district. So Hollister has agreed in a memorandum of understanding to accept our wastewater, and San Benito Water District has agreed to send us fresh water. So, but these are memorandum of understandings, and then if these projects are feasible, then we'll move forward into permanent agreements. So the water project status has been in design since February, since the MOU was signed. And at 30% design, when they're 30% done designing this project, they were due to be done in October, and their right-of-way acquisition, ROW's right-of-way, is complete. Their environmental studies are not complete, and to this day, we've only received rough cost estimates. Well, I'll tell you now, that in reviewing these rough cost estimates, the capital improvement to build the 6-mile pipeline is estimated to be around $7 million. And the annual overhead and operations and maintenance for that water brings it to a pretty high number, adding more than $500,000 to our current operation budget. So this came to our attention just 2 weeks ago, and the city will need to borrow and incur more debt to manage the water project. So there will be annual debt payments. So right now, we're focusing not on this project so much, but on the wastewater project, because it just doesn't seem in conversations with all 5 council members, incurring increases on both water and wastewater is insurmountable. We need to pick the best one, and we're furthest along with the wastewater, and that's going to get us out of putting our water into the creek. So the EPA has tentatively agreed that we could move forward with the wastewater project and at least defer the water project for a few years and not implement it right away. And that's important because we refinanced our debt obligations in 2015. And when we did that, we had a 10-year cap on adjusting those and refinancing those. So we're stuck at 5% on that 2015 debt obligation. That's about $300,000 a year that we're paying. And if we could, for example, postpone water until such a time as we could refinance that debt, that would absorb a lot of the costs, and we have better options for that now. So there might be numerous benefits to waiting on at least the water project status, but of course we need to share that with the water district, and we need to share that with Hollister. I'm meeting with Hollister tomorrow at 1, and we're going to have a conversation along those lines of not importing water, but postponing it. Okay, so the status of the sewer force main to Hollister. This is our second big compliance project, and it too. MOU requires a feasibility study after the project is 30% designed. Stantec is our design engineer. They're on the call tonight, and they're ready to talk about this project in a little bit of detail for you. The project is now is more than 65% designed, and that's really good because it helps us compete for grant and loan funding, which we'll talk about towards the end. The environmental studies are completed. So right now we're advertising our CEQA document, the mitigated negative declaration, and on December 14th, we're scheduled a public hearing to adopt the M&D. We've chosen a route that requires no right-of-way, so we don't have to worry about buying property from people, use of eminent domain, other possible things that would delay or make the project time-consuming and cost-prohibitive. Instead, we've chosen a different route. And basically, the cost estimates that we've come up with now are based on our, again, preliminary engineer's report. So in relationship to the industrial users, they're required to participate, right? When Earthbound expanded its facility in 1999, 2001, the County Resource Management Agency required them to abandon their septic system. Their septic system was failing, their 2,000-gallon septic storage system was failing, and they were forced then, they wanted to expand to send their water to San Juan Bautista. I made that very clear to them in a meeting at 150 Salinas Street Friday morning. They didn't understand why we didn't want their water. They're paying us for that water. And I said, you know what? Our system might be a little cleaner. We don't have violation. You know, there's a quid pro quo here. So I've been working hard with Taylor and Coke because they come together at the Coke lift station on San Justo Road. So to that end, we have a meeting December 13th. I do with Hollister, with Taylor Farms and Coke to talk about how we could share this cost. So they will build that lift station to suit our pipe as it comes by, and I'll share a map with you in just a minute and show you how that is planned to happen. So we have ongoing discussions that are happening, and it's clear that they have to pay for their connection to the city. It's their privilege that we're going to accept their wastewater, as it has been for now close to 30 years. So the rate increases apply to them, and so do the water board fines. They're 40% of our total wastewater stream. They should be up for at least 40% of the fines. So that's another notice that they've been placed on in September in a letter from the city. But they seem to be very open to an equitable solution, which is coming to agreement on how much Coke is sending us, how much Taylor is sending us, and we know how much Trulies is sending us. So all three want to continue to participate in this program. So the reason we would talk to Hollister is because we have agreed to extend our water treatment services to these 3 businesses outside of our boundaries. In the future, if this plan were to follow through, we would be simply conveying their water to Hollister, and Hollister would be treating it. So Hollister and the city need to have a good conversation about, and the water board, about who's regulating who in this regard. If we're just the pipe and Hollister's treating it, then Hollister and the city need to come together on who's going to be managing that. So right now, we've agreed to manage them the way we have in the past, or haven't, I hate to say, but that's the status as it stands, and that's the purpose of my meeting tomorrow with the city manager. I wanted to introduce our team online with us now. We have Gabe Erno, project engineer from Stantec. We have Tony Akel, who put together our master plans as our technical advisor. He's doing our cost analysis for us. Dmitry Semenov is a qualified municipal financial advisor. He helps cities organize grants and loans and other financing assumptions into a financial plan that the Environmental Protection Agency will accept. This is a requirement from the Environmental Protection Agency that we have a financial plan, and Dimitri is a qualified financial advisor for that. And we have Eric Helgeson from Barter Wells. From Barter Wells has done our last 3 rate studies, and Eric's been a great partner to work with. All of these disciplines have to be integrated together in the PER, in the rate study. They all have to speak and answer to each other in order for us to have strong competitive grant applications. So the 2 aspects of the force main and pump station, those are the 2 pieces of our sewer project. What do we have to do at our current wastewater treatment plant to pump this water hard enough through the pipe to the 6-mile force main to Hollister? And here's the map, and I don't know if you can see it from where you're sitting, but the intention of this map, when we first put it together in February, we thought maybe we could cut across this farmland directly to the Coke lift station on San Francisco Road. So this is Rancho Vista. We're coming up here to Prescott, and this is the Coke lift station here, and then on to Hollister. The reason we chose this route, or there are a number of reasons for choosing this route, pardon me, but it's all within the public road, so we don't have as much of an environmental impact. We don't have right of way to acquire, and we know that we can get through here quickly and easily. But there are costs for that. There's asphalt, there's traffic control, and other things. We'll talk about that later. And this is the design, technically, how we would enter the Hollister treatment plant. This is Mitchell Road. We already have a pacing that we can use to go under the 156, which is a great benefit, and come right into their manhole here to the Hollister waste station. The reason that's really great is because it saves us in our connection fees. They will not be collecting our water at all. They'll only be treating it. This is the map that's a little bit more complicated. It shows the pipe leaving Rancho Vista. This is existing 18-inch pipe, and then it goes down on to Prescott, and it goes right by all 3 of these commercial users. So the goal and the benefit of that is we don't have to have the commercial users, industrial users sending their wastewater to us anymore, because you can ask Mary and the neighbors at First Street. When it gets hot, that's enough. And so if we can keep it out there and then take it off from there, we'll be saving our city a great deal of trouble. Plus, it makes it a lot simpler.
Excuse me, Don. We can't see that screen. We can't see that screen.
Okay. What I'm referring to is a close-up of this picture here on Zoom. And where that is right here. So thanks for pointing that out. This is that same map. And right here is the Coke lift station on this map. So you have True Leaf, you have earthbound coming in north of True Leaf on the San Justo Road and right to the Coke lift station.
Don,
we still can't see what you're referring to.
I think they're just seeing this.
I always see right now, Dawn, is the little snippet of all of you, and all we see is the agenda, the City of San Juan Bautista agenda.
So can you? They don't progress down. Oops. What happened? The battery should have taken over. Like that. All right, now I killed it altogether. Are you guys still there? Some of you are.
Yeah, we're here.
See, the screen's in your background. It's only
Yeah, we
tiny
can
little.
see a little tiny screen behind you.
We
But when
see the glare. It's about
you
it.
stand up, when you stand up, all we see is your back and we can't really hear what you're saying.
Little technical difficulties there.
I'm sharing my screen through Zoom.
When you share the screen with the slides, it looks good, but not that the screen in the background.
Reload it. You can see us now. You can see us.
We can see you.
Okay.
Can't see the screen. Can't read it.
Right. We don't see anything. And like I said, when you were doing the presentation, all we could see was the agenda. We really couldn't go through the whole presentation.
Okay.
We only
And it's
see
very
the first-
small. It's very small. It's over on the left-hand side, and it's really small. We can't read anything.
You're not sharing.
There you go. So now we can see that.
Dawn, we were previously only seeing your first slide.
Yeah, I noticed that. Okay. I may have.
And I mean, it's okay, but I mean, for the people who are here, you know, for the first time, you know, they're not aware of what is happening.
Okay. I'm not getting any response on it.
Is there any way you can turn that screen so the camera at least picks up something?
We're working on it.
Okay, thank you.
You can't see that?
We can see that.
Now we can see a map.
Okay.
That's like, yeah.
Okay, that's the one that you were referring to right now.
Okay.
Yeah.
There.
So this is the map I was just talking about. The Coke Farms up here. That's their lift station up there. And True Leaf over here, and the pipe from Earthbound coming in, the Coke Farm. Our pipe is going to follow the green line up Prescott and right past those three. So that's where it would connect. So you still able to see that? And the Hollister connection here to the manhole.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, great. Sorry about that. I don't know what happened. So, so the benefits are passing by the commercial users, avoid sending commercial domestic wastewater to the city, providing free access to the system for repair and maintenance, and then a partnership that we're developing now with County RMA.
Could you speak up a little bit higher, please, because your mask, you can't hear your voice. Can you speak in a louder voice, please?
Sure, I'd be glad to. Okay, thanks for your input.
It's just hard with the mask.
Okay.
You never really enunciate.
Okay. I'll try and slow down. That's usually the problem. I'm talking too fast. But you can't read my lips, so that doesn't help either. So the sewer project highlights, it ends the MPD permit, right? That's the big thing about the sewer project highlights. It gets us out of that business altogether. We're going to decommission the existing wastewater plant, which means that we're going to put it in mothball, so that in case we have a pipe fracture or something, we still have more than 1 million gallons worth of storage in those dry ponds to put wastewater while we get the pipe fixed. So it's not going to smell, it's not going to be functioning only as a huge pump station to pump the water to Hollister. So those ponds, we have to keep the land the way it is, maybe cleaner, maybe free of weeds, but we're going to keep the ponds for emergency backup. It ends commercial sewage in the city. It simplifies the city's regulatory and operational responsibilities. Every year, running a wastewater treatment plant grows harder and harder and more complicated. And it is a permanent long-term solution. It's a permanent solution that we won't have to fix. We'll only be maintaining lift stations and pipes. We won't have to worry about sludge and other hazards. And it's supported by the partners of the Hollister County RMA and SWWTP water district. So that's the highlight of our sewer project. And I wanted to invite Gabe from Stantec to talk about our project. And Gabe, if I've missed anything, did you want to talk about some of the highlights of our project?
Sure. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. So I think I can't tell what slide you're on, but I think you were going to start me on slide 10, but maybe you already went through that, Don. Let me see on my side. Okay, 10 was the overall pipeline alignment, and 11 was the detail over at Hollister. There you go. Thanks. Just showing how we come down Freitas Road, cut up Mitchell Road, and then skirt the ponds around the Hollister wastewater treatment plant to their influent manhole there. And if you toggle, so what do we need to say there? The way this is connected, and I know part of my stumble here is that Don already kind of hit some of these points, but I'll say them anyway. We'll get you twice. We avoid the entirety of the Hollister collection system. So when it comes to paying, that connection fee, it should only apply for treatment. And same with the operational cost for wastewater should only apply for treatment, as those costs come back to San Juan Bautista. And the average dry weather flow that San Juan Bautista has right now is about 160,000 gallons per day. Sometimes it's a little less on average. So they do have higher peaks when it rains or there's lots of industrial application. Those flows can go up, and that's all accounted for in the pump station and force main concepts and in the MOU that Hollister has. It does accommodate the growth rate, as Don mentioned, of about 1.9% per year. So San Juan Bautista's, economic plans in town are accommodated. And one of the benefits of connecting to Hollister is that it's a small fraction of the current Hollister and future Hollister wastewater. And that's important because, with our poor water quality as we currently have it, they have a lot of assimilative capacity there with respect to permit compliance. And they also have a different effluent disposal plan. They're not discharging to an ephemeral stream that's highly regulated with an NPDES permit. Almost all their water goes for reclamation, which is more forgiving, both operationally and administratively with respect to permitting. So Don, here, what's my next slide? Okay, so you've seen this one, but this keeps the three industries outside of San Juan Bautista connecting to the force main directly on its way out of town on San Justo Road. We don't have their flows pumping back into town. And I understood historically there were some odor issues, and this would just kind of keep the overall city operation cleaner. The agreements, and I'm sure Don has mentioned this in the past, are that they're only going to send their municipal waste, not their process wastewater. They have other facilities for treating their own process wastewater. So their wastewater should be getting a little better in addition to not coming into the city. And that'll help with the overall arrangement with Hollister too. Let's see here. The whole alignment here is in city streets. Don mentioned that the original alignment in the master plan kind of did as the crow flies, straight line, shortest pipeline across, many of the agricultural fields between the cities. And that incurred, a lot of right-of-way cost, and also a possible project hurdle of an opposing property owner who just doesn't want to sell an easement. And then we're stuck in the water. So the alignment got rerouted to San Juan Highway, Prescott, San Justo, goes down Lucy a little bit over to Freitas, and then up Mitchell, all in county rights of way, and the county's on board right now. That optimizes access for operationally to the pipeline, to some facilities we'll have along the pipeline for its care and service. In total, the project highlights are that it ends the NPDES permit, which are causing, it's the whole reason that we're here talking now. And is compliance with that permit to an ephemeral stream, which is very difficult. Decommissioning the wastewater plant retains the existing ponds for emergency storage, but they should not be used on a regular basis. Don just mentioned this. Odor control should be less. They just basically should be empty 95% of the time, unless there's an emergency. We noted this before. It ends the commercial sewage coming into the city, and it greatly simplifies the city's regulatory and operational responsibilities. Basically, by getting rid of that NPDES permit, the city's just operating a collection system, and all those treatment and coordination and administrative pieces of the operational puzzle are borne by Hollister. And that's good. I mentioned Hollister has an easier permit to comply with. They also have great economy of scale in contrast to San Juan Bautista to administer that and avoid fines and stay compliant. It's a good long-term solution.
So, okay, thank you, Gabe. Sorry for the repetition. Yeah, we're gonna go. You want to go into the what the PER was talking about, and this is the slide for each of the PERs. This is the engineer's opinion of probable cost. It's at the back, page 65 of the PER. This is the first one from November. I pulled up the old slides for some reason in the confusion. So this is from 2020. They don't have the edits, Gabe.
Yeah, okay, so I recognize that this is probably not very readable line item by line item, but just hitting the main points. The cost back in 2020 totaled, what was the total there? Approximately 13 million. It didn't include any financing cost. It didn't include right-of-way cost. And they may have been a little optimistic. In fact, they were generated, I think, originating in 2019. And since then, as I'm sure you're all aware, and you'll see in our next slides here, the costs have gone up quite a bit due to some strange inflation we're all trying to figure out in the market, chain of supply issues that are hitting this industry particularly hard. So yeah, the cost estimate in that last estimate from 2020 was for construction was 6.27 million there. That's the pump station and pipeline. Right. And then in the interim, the master plan was updated. And here we see that the third row there, subtotal regional connection alternatives, the cost went to 8.5 million. And that also includes some soft costs. So we have to be cognizant of what we're comparing. The previous slide had a bunch of non-construction cost, and this has some of those costs, but not all of them. So I think it's easier if we skip to the next one. Yeah, thanks, Don. So USDA reviewed that first PER, preliminary engineering report. They advised us to add a bridge loan, suggesting that even if they funded the project, we might need to borrow and pay cost in the interim before the city's reimbursed. And that added some financing debt cost. We also added it's not shown here, but we also added,
this is not the edited one.
Yeah, we have some edits to the slideshow that aren't in here, so bear with us. We also added all right-of-way costs, and that grew the cost from the 13 million you saw in 2020 to here in early 21, 15 million. Now this cost did not go back and look at construction. There was no new information to use as the basis for looking at construction. And so over the course of 21, as you'll see in this next slide, why don't you go there, Don? The cost grew quite a bit as we have design drawings, we have input from contractors validating them, and we added the right-of-way cost. And we did have some refinement where we reduced the connection fee over at Hollister, recognizing some depreciation of their assets there and negotiating a reduced connection charge. But the big hit was increasing the core of the project, the construction cost, from that 6.2 million up to 12 million. And obviously a big concern. We're all trying to make sure that that's right. But what it did is it took the 15 million from the previous PER up to 20, quite alarming. We all recognize that. It was stressful for us to reveal this change. The project parameters haven't changed. It's still a pump station and force main. So what changed? And it's really just the cost of construction. So one more slide there, Don. Oh, let's see, I forget the slide order here, but hey, I stand corrected. There are some things that changed. We added the pipeline length by putting in the county roads. That was somewhat offset by the elimination of the added easement cost. We did add additional traffic control and asphalt related cost to putting it in the road. Some details that weren't anticipated before are a couple of canal crossings that we have to complete. They cost money, and the addition of pigging stations, which we could get into if you're interested, but it's a parameter for helping to keep the pipeline at capacity and prevent it from accumulating greases and oils and debris in the pipeline that reduce its capacity. We have this comment here, supply shortages. There's some speculation as to going on what is driving the market. And it seems to be that material costs are going up 40, 50, 100% in some cases. Labor costs are short, and the cost of construction has gone up. So this last bullet here is trying to help everybody, including myself, understand why that is, or if it's real. And so that 40% note there, it's really not a cost of living. It's an escalation or inflation factor in the realm and the business that of public works. And so that index comes from the engineering news record for public works projects. And it identifies as much as a 40% year over year cost increase. And so that sort of it does validate our cost increases that we're seeing as we estimate them. Just, as a reality check. What's our next slide there, Don?
This is a slide I'd like Tony to speak to as well. You can review it, Gabe, but I'd like Tony to talk to it as well.
If I may just make one comment there at the beginning, and then Tony can step in. So you saw on the last slide that it went up to 20 million. And in looking at it more closely, we reduced it to 18 because we had a project cost, and it includes a contingency to build the project. But then the USDA application identifies the addition of another layer of contingency, and we eliminated that double contingency. So the current total project estimate is 18 million. And you can take it away, Tony. Thank you.
I have not seen the slide before. I don't have a lot to add. I think you've covered it pretty well. I don't have anything new to add besides what we have discussed in the past about contingencies. I think the master plan is at the master plan level. I would like to add that these new contingencies we're seeing, the contractor markups and the doubling of construction costs, those are, this is the new market that Gabe is talking about. I'm hearing about this in other parts of our state, that there's this 30% that's being added to account from last year alone in public works projects. So I think you're seeing on the design side, Gabe, we're on the planning side, but we also get to see projects like your project here. We get to see other design projects throughout the state, and we are seeing that there's a big jump in costs. Those are not things that we have seen. I have never personally seen this in the past, a big jump like this in a single year. And we were shocked, and we're trying to find out if there's a better way still. I think these are costs that a contractor also gave us as an estimate. We've discussed it at the last meeting. I think with Don's guidance, we still are hoping that we can get some better numbers with sharper pencils, maybe with another contractor that can give us another estimate that can confirm the numbers or can bring us better news. But at this time, I think we're relying on the information that was provided by Gabe, and he's got some credible sources. So we'll go with that for now. So those are our numbers for now, but we hope that we can still verify those numbers, validate those numbers to make sure that we have done the best that we can.
Thank you, Tony. And to that end, we have a contractor in town, and I spoke with them today. The pipe that we're speccing for this project is made of polyurethane petroleum product. He said it definitely probably went up 40% for the sewer line that he's installing now on First Street. He talked about valves, having to change valves and different type of valves because of the length of time. It taken more than 2 months since they ordered it, and it still hadn't arrived yet. But he gave me the number of his boss, his estimator, and I'm going to talk to this local contractor who does big projects around here and see if they can help us slow this down some more. So that's the important point that we want to convey, is that we're not sitting on our hands, and we're doing our best to narrow this down with Tony's help and Gabe's hard work to answer lots of questions. So at the end of the PER, we talked about the total project costs, and we removed the 1.9 contingency that the USDA insisted on, and we're still reviewing the PER. But we come to the conclusion of an $18 million project. Approximately $6.3 million of that would be grants. And we have at least 4 sources for grants. An EPA STAG grant that was applied to Jimmy Panetta's office in March of last year. $3.5 million community development block grant that the NOFA is released in December next month. The USDA, the reason we're so focused on that is because it's a combination of a 20% grant, 80% loan, and the loans are in at 1.2%. So that's an example of some of the grant money that we're going to bring forward to this project. But the other 12 million has to be financed. And that estimate in the PER in its final format here is that that would add $477,000 to our annual budget. So that's about a 50% increase to our current $1 million budget to operate the plant. And that number is taken, we came to that number using the expertise of Eric and Bartle Wells. And also Dimitri is here to help us understand our finance plan better. So at this point, I wanted to talk with Dimitri a little bit about the preliminary finance plan and strategies we have to put this together. Dimitri, can you talk for a few minutes about your thoughts and ideas? You've been with the project about 8 months.
Sure, absolutely. What we're looking at in terms of financing, we're applying for several different things with the USDA and the State Revolving Fund, the SRF. And the strategy is both agencies, they have their own buckets of money to approve both for grants and for loans. Until they receive the full application and they see what the project is, as well as who else is applying in any given year, they really cannot provide much feedback in terms of how much money is available. So what the city is doing is pursuing both tracks at the same time, the USDA and the SRF financing. And then the idea is to see what comes in, both on the grant side and on the loan side, compare the options, and then figure out the steps. So right now, what we have in the document is a very rough estimate. We may be able to get more grants, maybe slightly less. The mix of the USDA or SRF loans may change. So it's a very, very preliminary assumption that you just saw on the screen. So we'll be finalizing the details, but that's the plan. See what types of subsidized loans we can get, what types of grants we can get, and then tweak the plan accordingly. So right now we use pretty conservative assumptions. Eric and I have spent quite a bit of time making sure that there's plenty of room in the assumptions to ensure sufficient debt service coverage ratio. So the city would be able to not only incur the debt, but also repay it down the road. So that's the idea, that's the plan.
Thank you, Dimitri. I spent about 2 hours Monday morning prioritizing the State Revolving Loan Fund grant application, and they have this flags sheet. And I was sharing that with Councilmember Freeman today. And every time you hit yes on a box, it's an ouch, it's a flag. And the first box is about legal requirements. Any right of way to be bought? No. Any use of eminent domain? No. So we've done a good job of steering free of this flag sheet. Do you have to partner with someone? Well, yes. So, it's not perfect, but we've done a darn good job of designing the project so that it becomes eligible for these grants. And we're all working together as a team to make that happen. We're almost through, so thank you for bearing with me. I wanted to give Eric a chance to talk about the rate study and how we have fine-tuned with Dimitri's help the rate study and the PER so that they work so closely together. Eric, would you like to talk for a while? Thanks.
No problem. Thanks, Don. Yeah, thanks for having me tonight. So our rate study, we submitted it on and presented it to the council on October 19th. The study itself, the rates were designed to ensure that the city had rates that were legally compliant, as well as provided enough revenue to fund the projected operating and capital costs. We did make some conservative assumptions to ensure that the rates would be sufficient. And so, as you know, this conversation of how the capital, the project cost has gone up, there was some, there is some cushion if things go right, that the rates, we'll be able to absorb those costs. And so we went to our model. We updated the assumptions we made, such as the interest rate for the financing, the amount of growth that will occur in the city. We were assuming none. There's likely going to be some. So we made those modifications that are very reasonable and still fairly conservative. We feel that the rates still should be able to support the updated project cost. And then the rates we did recommend were, we made a couple, one change to the rate structure, which was transitioning the commercial rates from a structure based on strength to a single volumetric rate where they're all charged based on a domestic strength. And the reason for this was to comply with Prop 218 to ensure that rates were proportional to the service being provided and reflecting the cost to provide that service. In this case, the city of Hollister will only be charging one rate based on domestic strength to the city. And so we passed that. That's why we made that change. And then again, the total dollar amount that all the revenue that's going to be collected from all of the rates is set based on the projected cost.
Thank you. And Eric provided a study for us late Wednesday afternoon that didn't make it in the original packet, but is now available on our website. So if you want to dig through some of the details of his analysis, it's here, and the tables are very simply laid out and easy to read. So Rochelle will make sure that gets posted on our website. So the cost estimates and current rate study, this is the November 24th analysis from Barter Wells, and the conclusion is that we're still confident that they're going to support the rate, the cost estimates that we received. So with that, we'll go on to a quick review of our schedules. We sent out what is known as the Proposition 218 notice, October 29th, and it has to circulate for 45 days. Mark Mandel with us today. If anyone has any questions about this process, the Prop 218 process is referred to as it applies specifically to utility rates. We have a public hearing to consider and adopt new rates December 14th. And in our city, new rates have to be adopted by ordinance, and ordinances can only be read at a regular standing meeting. So that would be planned if we were successful establishing new rates December 14th. We would come a week later at our regular meeting, December 21st, with the first reading of an ordinance to adopt those new rates. The second meeting would occur January 19th, usually by consent, and the rates would then become effective 30 days after, or around February 19th, 2022. So if that process happens as described in this slide, we'd be implementing our new rates in March 22 billing. So That's right at the end of right at the beginning of the fourth quarter of our fiscal year. And if the project does get supported by ratepayers December 14th, then we'll proceed with the schedule towards construction. We're looking at getting our updated construction funding applications in this month. That's what we're doing now. Next month, December, we'll be finalizing our permitting process. We do have some endangered species between here and Hollister. So we're filing special permits for United States Fish and Wildlife. We're doing that ahead of the process, so it doesn't slow us down. And we've asked the EPA to be the lead agency in that process to give us a 135-day limit on that process. The final design drawings are expected by March 2022. I understand Stantec's already at 90% design drawings, so we're well ahead of that schedule. We'd be bidding next spring with construction and notice to proceed in June of 2022. And it'll take about 12 months to complete this project with a completion date of November 2023. And that's the EPA's deadline for this project, is to get it done by December 2023. And during that time, we'll be evaluating the import of water and the timing of that, and negotiating that with the water district and our partners to see how we can pull that in as well. Both of these are quality of life issues. The way we treat our wastewater treatment and the smell and the odors and the other bothers with this are quality of life issues, as much as bringing in surface water and reducing the hardness in our water. So hopefully someday soon, the community can stop relying on water softeners and receive good fresh water. So those are the two goals of this project. And these are the costs as best as we know them today. So with that, Mayor, that's our last slide. And our team stands ready to answer community questions for you. Thank you for your time. It took a little longer than I expected, but I wanted everyone to know we got some new faces tonight. So.
Oh my, thank you very much. Thank you, Gabe, Tony, Dimitri, and Eric. We appreciate you coming tonight and sharing a little more insight to this. So I'm going to open it up to public comment. Please, there's a microphone. If you will state your name and have at our panel. Okay, cool. Thank you very much.
Okay, the first speaker is Andy Moore.
Andy, welcome. Thank you.
So I can talk to you, hey, good evening. Thank you for having this in-person meeting. When I first got the flyer, you know, I believe there wasn't going to be an in-person. I thought a lot of people doing Zoom, that it should be open. Everything else is open in town, so this is a positive point. But let me move on here. These are just questions. They might be out of order, but you know, you can take them and write them down. So the sewer rate in town, if you have a 1-bedroom or a 5-bedroom house, is the same, correct? Okay. I don't believe one person in an ADU ought to be paying the same that somebody's in a 5-bedroom, 3-bath. Okay, 10 people. That's just question number one. Yesterday, the time of construction, you kind of laid that out with all the things. One other concern I had, that the landlords did not get notified. They're the bread and butters of this town. It was sent to the tenants. Tenants move on, they buy homes, they move out. I believe that the tenants should have been notified of what's going on here. You know, not keeping the year like that, where city of Santa Monica, there's 2,200 people and landlords that are absent, and maybe they have some concerns. You know, I thought that they should have been notified. The other thing, I had a talk with somebody on the council. Spread this out over maybe 10 or 15 years, not the first 5 years. It's pretty steep for some people. Maybe recalculate the fees and break them up. I think it's about 1302 at the end of 5 years. You can divide everything up. Maybe instead of 5 years, go 10 years. Here's one. I don't believe we should implement this until 90 days prior to construction. I can see what's going to happen. They're gonna be paying wages out of this, whatever, but be upfront with the citizens, say, okay, we're ready to go, we're 90 days out, we're gonna implement it. So put the shoe on the other foot, don't implement it in a month and a half, implement it when you're ready to go. You're all set, you can pass it, say we're good with it, but this is when it's gonna go. You know, because we're ready to start construction, but that would be a contingency, you know, for the people, hey, we're ready to go, we're not gonna squander the money, or plan B, pass it now and put it in the interest-bearing account. You can't touch it. Okay, because it's going to be maybe delay after delay. I know you're working hard, but I can see the money, you know, just going out for wages or something else. Okay, this is for the sewer, correct?
Yeah.
My other question is, what about if you want to bring water in from the West Hill Station? That's going to be another fee. So the community needs to know about that. We're talking sewer, now we're talking West Hills. And I'll stop here right now and everybody can listen to me. I don't want to stop, I'll stop.
No,
that's great. That's 3 minutes.
No, that was
Okay,
something,
sorry.
something. I'm sure to take my medication. No.
So my question is, and the supervisor might want to take this in. In 78, we're in zone 6 of the water. You look at your income, you look at your property taxes. If we divert pumping 50% hypothetically out of the basin, and we're getting water out of Central Valley, are we going to get a 50% cut on our tax bill? So everybody gets a property tax bill, look at what you pay San Diego County water. So if we're going to go away from drawing water out of the basin, are we going to get a percentage of savings on our property taxes? Yeah, let's see here. Just a question somebody had. We're not going to have to pump the recycled water back, right? It's going to be disposed of over from Hollister. This was a conversation that was brought up years ago that they take our sewage, but they wanted us to take the recycle. I guess, you know, it's just a question that somebody had.
Thank you. I'm not aware of that.
And that's about it. I'm not against the project. I just think that, you know, to be upfront with people in town, hey, implement it right before you get ready. I mean, to say this is what it's going to be, things are going to change, and say, hey, we'll roll it, and maybe they'll be happy, maybe they won't, but the money won't get squandered. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bob Cozio?
I'll take a rain check.
Okay. Jolene Cozio?
Jolene, hi, welcome.
Hello, Jolene Cozio, 181 Lemon Street. I should have made bullet points like Andy. That's a good way to do that. I have a lot of the same concerns he does. In my case, I pay the water for my rental. I got the notice. They didn't get any notice unless I give it to them. Their rent will have to go up because I have to keep up with what I'm paying for their water. So yeah, it seems like both homeowners and renters should be getting these notices. I assume they just went out to everybody who pays a water bill because Bob and I got 2 of them, one for residential and one for our house. This project probably should have been started years ago. However, I do not understand why the city's water source is not a priority over the sewer. It has always been my understanding that if we could reduce the salt going into the sewer by using blue valve water instead of well water, for instance, the salts going out would be greatly reduced. The city has no business collecting money before the project is ready to start, even though the project may be necessary. Any city project of this magnitude should have a citizen oversight committee. After all, it is our money we use to pay for it. And I'm just not sure that furthest along is a good reason. Furthest along in planning is a good reason to put the sewer project over the water project. In late 2008, 3 council members successfully voted to obtain a certificate of participation, COP, for $11 million for a water project they hoped would clean up our well water enough to limit the salts coming out of our treated sewage water to satisfy the California Regional Water Quality Board. This $11 million COP put the city in debt for $26 million to be paid over 35 years, or until the year 2043 without modifications. I realize modifications were made, but it's still incredibly expensive for our money. Due to mismanagement of the project, the city spent $14 million and never built the Procore pellet softener, which still sits rusting on the corner of San Juan Hollister Road and Mission Vineyard Road to this day. A big part of the cost overruns was change orders put in place by a few people. Now, again, the oversight committee did not exist in this. Much of what residents currently pay for water and sewer goes to pay this loan, even little maintaining the sewer and water systems. One major issue with raising the rates further is there are already many residents who are unable to pay the current rates, so they don't pay at all. How can residents be expected to begin paying higher rates now for a project that does not even appear to be ready to start? I know you addressed to some extent, do we have permits with Caltrans, landowners between here and the sewer plant in Hollister, et cetera? Why did the city spend much of what it gained with new homes on unnecessary new city employees, rather than on infrastructure or paying down our existing debt? That's what it was most of our understanding in the city that the money would go towards, either putting up that Procore plant, working on the infrastructure, and instead we have new employees. Residents notice things like the city having the cleanest lawn in town at the baseball park, while our lawns turn brown to save water and money. Parks should be watered with recycled water, not well water. Residents also notice water leaks coming from city meters, while city workers ride around in trucks, never bothering to see what's obvious. And it's not that I'm opposed to the project. I just don't want to see another unfinished project in this city. We've had enough of those. And I want the city to start managing its budget a little better.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Morris Lopez.
Thank you, Jackie. Welcome.
Hey, good evening, everyone. Thank you, Jackie Morris Lopez from the Street, also from the Commissioner. I have to agree with the previous 2 speakers. I think they said a lot of what I feel and I'm concerned about, especially what Mr. Morris said. One of the things that I thought right off the bat was that the equity of how the rates are going up. I know there's a rate study. I know that there was talk of getting loans and grants based on the income status of the city, but when we have 2 big subdivisions come in with high wage earners, that really threw that off course. And so what I want to speak to is maybe the people that aren't in the room tonight, like my mom, who's 84, other people that are elderly that can't come out, like Mr. John was saying, they can't come out, they don't use Zoom. So I want to give them voice. Some of them are my constituents, even though I'm appointed position. I feel like I have a voice for them. They can't be here tonight. And so if you have individuals on a fixed income and they live in a 1,200 square foot home, I feel it's really grossly unfair that they have to pay the same increases year after year. And the thing that bothers me is that we're paying for these increases and we can't drink our water, even though the city does not address the fact that most of us illegally pay for water. Okay, so other people pay for water to drink. And our priority now is our sewer. Okay, let's talk about sewer. When there was a previous city manager, 2 city managers ago, there was talk about going through the older parts of the town and the older streets and replacing the clay pipes and replacing all of the antiquated equipment. When is that going to be addressed? When our rates go up? How is that going to be addressed? And the folks that are older tend to live in these older neighborhoods and have the older homes and have the smaller homes. I think you really need to look hard at the aspect of equity or inequity of how we get to increase. We need to also consider that, yes, you check the box tonight by having this meeting, but if you really, really go out there and knock on doors and reach people that can't be here tonight. Thank you.
Thank you very much. There are no other speaker cards. Does anybody else want to get up? Go ahead. Can we please have your name for the record?
I saw that as far as the finance plan, you're going to target grants, you're going to target loans, 10% grant, 8% loans. The rates are going up for the residents and the commercial. But my first question is, how about the industrial users, the caters, Coke and Uni? What is their contribution to this project? That's my first question. My second question is, as a resident, and kind of like piggybacking a little bit on what Jackie was saying, what started this problem in the first place? 2007, the thing, we started paying fines. There are 4 million. We're still paying fines. We were saying last month we paid $12 or something. What happened? What happened before 2007 that all of a sudden we have this problem in our water, and as a result, in our sewage? That's never really been spelled out in a way that I and some other people don't really understand. So that's my second question. And I know people have brought up questions here. I'd like to see some of these questions answered, and not just like that, checking this off and saying, well, we did our due diligence and we're going on moving forward. What started this in the first place? Who needs to pay for it?
Thank you very much. Do we have any raised hands?
Mayor, can I ask more questions?
Sorry, excuse me. Sure, go ahead.
My first question is the sewer plant totally gone for 1 year, or can it be brought up? Number one. Number two, if we do bring the water in from the West Hill station, what's the chances of that curing the problem on the other end? I'd like to know that answer. But maybe we could get drinking water out of that and it'll fix the other problem. What do we need to do to solve that issue? Those are just, I forgot to bring it up, that she knocked me on the head here and it's something right, but those are just two questions I have. Can that be brought up to speed? And does the water from West Hills cure the problem here at this end? Or what can we do to make it cure? And then go different out. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Juan Candelaria has his hand raised.
Okay, welcome, Juan.
Unmute yourself.
Hi, Juan. Can you please unmute yourself? Thank you.
Hi,
welcome.
everyone.
Hi.
Good evening. I hope everybody's enjoying their holiday month. So what I was saying, anyway, most of the folks that have spoken have addressed a lot of the concerns that I initially came into this meeting to question. One thing that hasn't been clarified for me is the definition of a monthly fixed rate. So as I understand it, the proposed rate increase by 7 of 2025 would be a total of $148.75, which is roughly, I believe, a 51% increase over what we're paying today. But then there is an addendum 1 regarding residential rate of equivalent dwelling units, EDUs, that Hollister would charge and be passed through to the customers of San Juan. I have a number here that says $141.71 for residential, and commercial paying a volumetric rate of $21.52. My question is, as I read this, what I'm reading is that then we're not talking about a monthly fixed rate. We're talking about a monthly base minimum rate with likelihood of us paying monthly residential rates to the city of Hollister for services delivered. Which brings me back to the final question of the for example on Addendum 1 for fiscal year 2024-25, the monthly residential rate will be $141.74. Would that be on top of our monthly fixed rate? I mean, would we be looking at potentially close to $300 in sewage fees? So that is a question that I would like to be answered. And secondly, I would like to go on the record that I oppose this proposed sewer rate increase as it's been developed, as it's being proposed. And I'd be happy to get, I'm at 907 First Street, San Juan Bautista. And yeah, that's about it for me. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Northern hands are ready.
So maybe we can take a stab at some of these questions if you like.
Sure.
And we can work backwards. I've written a number of them down, but I'd like Eric to talk to the rate calculation. What is an EDU? What is a single family unit? It's a similar question to Mr. Moore, talking about single family versus multi-family housing, or more than one family in a single family house is a different issue. That's called overcrowded housing. It's 5 bedrooms versus 2. 5 bedrooms versus 2. Eric, could you speak to that and Mr. Camiller's question about the 141.74?
Yeah. So I guess I'll start with the EDU question and work backwards. So we for the rate study, we assumed a certain amount of use on average per residential home, and then the commercial customers pay a volumetric fee subject to a minimum charge. So what I think you were asking was about the escalation clause and how that impacts the EDU and how that impacts the rate. The rate will still be a fixed charge per month for commercial and volumetric for, and volumetric for fixed for residential, volumetric for commercial. We made a certain assumption about what the rate will be based on the information Hollister provided. However, they're likely going to do another rate study and update their charges. So we assumed that their rates were going to go up, I believe 4% per year. So if their rates go up more than that, then that would be passed through proportionally to residential and commercial. And if they go up by less than that, then the rate would actually reduce proportionally. And the EDU definition that was used in the rate study would be used to for apportioning those differences. But as far as the rate itself, it would still be a fixed charge per month for every residential customer. And then why do we do a fixed residential charge per month per residential customer? The reason for this is that San Juan Bautista, there's no meters on the outflow. And there are other ways to recover fees, but we feel the most reasonable way to recover the fee based on the resources available to the city variation in units in the city is to just have the fixed charge per residential unit. You know, you could have one person living in a large home, you could have multiple people living in a smaller home. You know, there's really no perfect way to measure that the actual outflow into the sewer. And so having a single charge per residential home is a fair way to recover that, the cost of that discharge.
Also, I think the person who asked that question had asked whether the $141.74 example in footnote 1 was in addition to the base rate or instead of, and that actually represents the base rate but adjusted for a theoretical Hollister charge that's larger than we expected. And so with that, so if that example were to happen, the rate would be $141.74 instead of $141.67. It wouldn't be a plus. It wouldn't be around 300. We're talking about a relatively small adjustment in that example.
So by averaging the single family home rate, then you're taking a home with 10 residents in it, and you're averaging it with a home with 1 resident in it. So theoretically, but it's not perfect. It's not perfect, but it's the best we can do with the technology we have. That's my understanding. And then to answer the question of the industrial users, so we do have flow meters monitoring all of the solid waste, all of the wastewater coming from our 3 industrial users is managed by flow meters on gallons per day. And I can tell you that I'm in a hot conversation with Taylor right now where our flow meters are telling us 55,000 gallons per day, and they're telling me 13,000 gallons per day. They've been paying their bills, but under protest until we straighten this out. So this EDU is a way of charging them per unit. So they're actually, that's what volumetric refers to. So then that way we know that they're paying an equal proportion to the single family homeowner. That's why these 2 distinctions are made. Okay, sure. We have a meter on each of the pipes coming from the industrial users. And we read those meters more than once a month, and we generate a bill based on exactly how much water they send us, gallons per day. So we have a discrepancy going on right now between Taylor and the city about how many gallons they're sending us per day. We received $30,000 from Taylor in July. They thought they only spent $25,000 worth of industrial wastewater treatment. So we're reconciling that, but at least now we're talking about it and we're managing it. I can't say that we were when I arrived. We can do a better job, no doubt. But that's an example of, are the industrial users paying their fair share? The answer is yes, because they're paying this volumetric rate. I hope that makes sense. That's why we think it's fair. And that's the way Hollister is going to charge the city for treating its water. So yeah, we're not paying an operator. We reduced the operator budget. We reduced a lot of the operations budget, and that absorbs some of the costs that Hollister will be charging us. And then as Mark pointed out, there's some flexibility in there, at least in the beginning, as to what Hollister does with the changes rate. So that answers the question of what is industrial users. What happened in 2007? I'm not sure why they picked 2007 for the fines. I know that in 2008 is when Earthbound expanded, almost doubled the size of their plant. So if we were on the edge, so we have limits. Our permit consists of limits. So we're allowed to send so many milligrams of different chemicals into a creek, but if we go above those limits, that's what a violation is. So that's the way the water board regulates the city's wastewater treatment plant. So what happened in 2007 that sent us over those limits? If you read the environmental document from 2009, the land use permit, it says clearly in there that the city of San Juan Bautista agreed to accept 80,000 gallons per day from Earthbound Farm. That's a ton of water. We're processing 160,000 gallons a day right now. But in the 2009 sequel of mitigated neg deck, it says, we agreed to accept 80,000 gallons per day. So what I see, in answer to your question, it's a really good question. Why did they pick that date? That's the date that they expanded their plant and started sending a ton of water to us. They don't anymore. I don't think they send us near that much anymore. And we'll figure that out in the next few months. That's why we're having this dialogue with them. But that's a critical question.
I just wanted to interpret this for a second. Are they helping with the fine?
Yes, they're on notice September that they're going to pay their share of the fine.
It's going to be backtracked for whatever that word is.
Retroactively, yes, yes, yes. And they understand the responsibility for that. Taylor has only owned Earthbound Farms for the last maybe 24 months, 2 years. And so they didn't know what they were buying into. And initially they were trying to tell me we're only responsible for 2 years, but their attorney advised them differently. You know, it's like a used car. It is what it is. I didn't know it was stolen, officer. Oh, well. But I'm getting the sense that they want to be fair, that all of the growers want to be fair. You know, when I presented this issue to Coke Farms, they came to me and they said, what are our limits going to be? We have a clean well on the other side of the valley and we can import and blend that and send you better water. That's a great solution. The first thing Vince Brigantino did at Truly was go out and ask Bracewell, their operator, what does reverse osmosis cost to put a reverse osmosis so the water we send San Juan is cleaner? So they want to work with us. They have to work with us. So we have a lot of leverage for little town. And we'll see how far we get with it. But we are aggressively pursuing this conversation. And they know and they're on notice because they have to join our pipeline by 2023. I can't sit on my butt and pretend they're going to do that. I have to go out and make sure that they do that. Otherwise, we haven't accomplished our goal. And that's why, Jolene, to answer your question, we're still incurring $12,000 in fines for the last quarter. And that's not just chloride and what they call total dissolved solid. It's for ammonia and it's for toxicity. So our plant is limping along. Its ability to remove these bad things from the water is really limited. And it's really fragile. And that's what I came into when I interviewed with the city council. A condition of failure report on our wastewater treatment plant with 15 imminent catastrophes that could happen out of that plant. A lot of them we have repaired. The emergency generator works better than it did. You know, we've addressed a lot of these things to keep the plant running, but Carl is helping us with this. He's a retired public works director from Morgan Hill. Carl can speak to how this plant is just limping along and is a lot more vulnerable and could cause serious damage into that creek. So that's the sense of urgency that I feel. When we get the alarms over the weekends coming from that plant, it's not performing again, or PG&E has blown the control board and the circuitry again. This happened in May of this year. We were on the brink of failure out there. We can handle the volume, but we're not treating the quality. So we're not able to treat the quality with the kind of technology that remains on that hill. It's just not adequate. So maybe I didn't speak to that clearly enough, but I'm happy to. The first exhibit in my staff report is that report we just sent to the State Water Board, so you can read it for yourself. It's right in there. That's why I attached that. What else is here? There's a lot of things. The money from the new homes was to go towards water. What $750,000 from the 2 new developments went to was to pay for well 6. We bought well 6 from Coke Farms. Coke Farms got well 3. Well 6 needed a manganese and iron treatment plant. So those big storage tanks, 6 of them you see out there, remove manganese and iron from the water. They needed to be elevated above the floodplain. It needed X, Y, and Z. So what started out to be a simple $300,000 well turned into a $750,000 project. And that's where the revenue went to the water solutions fee that we collected from each parcel in each of these 2 lots. So it went to fresh water, and lo and behold, it's succumbed to nitrates, and it hasn't been online since March 2020. And so we've been experimenting and trying to remove the nitrates from well 6, but right now all that money was invested there. It keeps us afloat because well 5 needs to be filtrated through that iron and manganese plant. So we're relying on well 1 and well 5 right now, but we need 3 sources in order to have a real strong resilient system. We're only functioning on 2 at this time. Yes, the park should be watered on recycled water. I couldn't agree more. Yes, unfinished projects. I think one of the reasons the council hired me is because they saw that I was finishing projects in the city I came from. We just completed a $55 million police station and a $35 million library. And so that's what I bring is my integrity and my pride to make sure these projects get done. My personal goal to meet this 2023 deadline from the EPA, and that's the legacy I want to leave this city. So if I die on my way home, all bets are off. So anyway, I'm getting on my soapbox. It's my turn, but I just wanted to thank you for that feedback. And Andy had a good question to follow up. Can the sewer plant be upgraded? Well, that's what that PER evaluated. It evaluated $10 and $15 million project to bring new equipment up to that sewer treatment plant and fix it. Reverse osmosis is one of the technologies it included. So we evaluated that when we chose to send our wastewater instead to Hollister. So that's also available and it's on our website if you want to look through that and see if we missed something. Will importing water fix the discharge? This proposal says we want to get out of the discharge business altogether, Andy. We don't want to just fix it. We just want to get rid of it. We're a small, it's harder and harder to run small districts. The first question I asked in 2019 of the water district is, hey, would you like our wastewater treatment plant? So I've tried various options. Yes, I think it would improve it because again, we're pulling up really salty hard water and we're putting it through our system and it's going into the creek. It's not going to help us with these chronic toxicity and the ammonia that we're suffering now, but it would help us address the salt problem. So a combination of an upgrade and fresh water, that's a possibility, and we can explore that in more detail. Seniors on fixed income. You know, there are cities and there are utilities who help seniors with fixed income pay their bills. It's not deemed a subsidy, but they create a rate system that helps seniors, and maybe Eric can talk to that. Did we really go out and talk to them? Well, this is, I think, our 7th town hall meeting in 2 years. And each of these Zoom meetings, Rochelle has opened the library and invited people here to participate. I don't know what else we can do during the pandemic. We were stuck with 2 emergencies at once, and we did the best we could. So anyway, Mayor, I'm starting to ramble, so I should shut up now.
How are we with answering questions? Go ahead.
I'd still like to know if there's any value in that stupid Procore thing sitting out there. When I first got on council, that had already happened. I got on in 2010. It was purchased in 2008. And we're $2 million more in debt beyond the $11 million they spent. And it's sitting out there. And we were trying to save money for years to build it, because it was supposed to reduce the salt. And my husband, I, Tony Bach, very few people went to those meetings and said, are you sure this is a good idea? These things aren't used anywhere except cattle ranches where they have to reduce the salt. Is there any value to it? Can we gain any value to this equipment that's rotting out there? It seems like the city might want to look at ways to raise money other than from the residents who are already strapped.
We did look at refurbishing that at one point. That was one of the projects.
Yeah.
We're getting or selling it.
Yeah. So actually, Don has been in contact with Bracewell to sell it. We have used valves from it. So yes, no, there's no bringing it back up. Yes, we are working towards part and parcel, eBay, whatever, to see if we can recoup some of those costs. I mean, now they're minimal, but something's better than nothing. No, go ahead,
yeah.
Jackie.
So along the lines of the base rates and commercial in Mountain Valley, there a difference?
Can't hear her at all.
Say, sorry, hang on. We'll repeat the question, please. Sorry, go ahead.
Is there a difference in rate charges for like the restaurants in town that might have, you know, a couple hundred people?
Okay, so for all of our TV viewers, the question was, is there a different charge for commercial who use a lot of water, restaurants versus a shop, just a storefront? I'm sorry? For residents. Sorry, thank you.
Eric, we had a rate for that had different strengths, right? Low, medium, and high.
You currently do. We're recommending that you transition to a rate with only one strength. However, it will still be volumetric, meaning as a restaurant uses more water and discharges more water and more waste into the sewer system, their charge will increase proportionally. So for every unit of water that goes into the restaurant, their sewer charge will go up by 1 unit. It's only residential customers that pay a fixed amount per month, because their residential customers the only way to have a measurement of what's going into the home is the meter, and that residential customers use their water for both irrigation, washing their dog, their car, and then also what goes down the drain. So we use a fixed charge to account for, based on average occupancy, is how we determine what that charge is to account for the varied water uses that occur with residential connections.
For the people that are low income or fixed income, I saw this stuff right here that we had in the library that talks about programs that your certain income can be eligible for treatment. Is there any way we can kind of like broadcast that a little bit better than just here in the library?
So the question was, we have a utility assistance program now. If you can't afford to pay for utility bills, then you qualify. And our median income for a family of 4 is $79,000, which is really high. And so that means that a lot of folks, especially seniors with fixed income, will qualify. And we have $50,000 set aside in this program, only $1,500,000.
Has been used.
Yeah, that have been used. So anything we can do to get the word out. And I know that we have someone come once a week and accept applications and talk with people here in the library. So we're doing what we can. Again, it would be great if we had a senior center that had a senior lunch every day and we could hand out notices personally to people. And we've had it on our website more than once, and so we continue to manage it. They went out in the water bill. Yeah, went out in the water bill.
Maybe it needs to be sent out again.
Yeah.
Now that this is happening.
Yeah.
Maybe you can put on Facebook. I know a lot of people, myself included, it takes a little bit to get on these leaks, stuff like that. A lot of people are more getting their information from Facebook or Instagram and stuff like that. Maybe we can upgrade our way of getting information out besides go to the city link. A lot of people don't do that, and a lot of people don't come to the library. And even when we had a senior lunch, if there was 12 people there, there was a lot. Me too. 13 people.
Rochelle has been posting on Facebook and Instagram almost weekly. Because she's been concerned that that $50,000 that we have, if we don't use it, if somebody doesn't, she's afraid that it'll go away. So she's really been, to her ability, you know, aside from going door to door with the flyer, but she has been posting.
Maybe we need to have a workshop today. This is a workshop for people to talk about, or workshop, so we can help them fill out the application and staff and
One suggestion is just going back to the old fashioned way. I know that we don't have staff to be not on the board, but there might be some people that might volunteer. But just setting up a card table in front of the window market, and also setting up a card table maybe by the post office, because everybody knows you have to go to the post office to get a mail, whether you're, you know, home or 18. Having someone the water, you know, project about this city, you know, utility funding that would be helpful to those two places. If they don't go to both, they will at least go to the post office. And then my last comment was, and I do think someone addressed it, we have a lot to write down and understand, was what about when we attended a project that was two city managers back about pulling up old pipes? Because once again, my sticking point for me is that, you know, I'm thinking to improve our sewer and water services, but I heard a couple of things that could be mitigated. Did someone say that there are soft water users? Why are we still using soft water? Is there a way to discourage that and give people maybe a discount or some money off their bill so that we can at least mitigate that?
Right, yeah.
Okay? And the other thing is pulling up these old pipes. And this was like 10 years ago, I heard.
Yeah.
And you're expecting us to pay for the same services with old equipment. And we have people that come out there, city workers on the corner of Mission and Fifth, and Alameda, and what's that little
Here.
Yeah, you know, we see them around. We're told that it's not the city's responsibility, it's the homeowners.
So that's the purpose of the master plans that were adopted last year. And Bartlewells did rely on the capital improvements in the master plans. And they identified and mapped for the first time all the city's piping, and then ranked them as red, green, you know, different colors, different ranking. And then we rely on that master plan to establish our capital improvement budget each year. We try and put as much as $500,000 aside to replace valves and pipes, both water and sewer. And then that is part of the rate study, and Bartlewells did rely on our master plans, and that's the benefit of that. And they address some of the more routine maintenance that needs to happen, like you said, the replacement of old lines. So that's our response to that question. We didn't remove it from the budget. In fact, we added it because we had the master plans for that.
Soft waters. San Benito County Water District has a program for turning in softeners, the salt ones specifically, for money. We're asking to change from salt to the canisters where they remove them and bring them back. They recharge Culligan or whomever will recharge them for reuse, and they bring you 2 fresh ones. And there is money associated with that as well. It's a one-time trade-in deal, just like the toilet or getting rid of your lawn or low flow, whatever. So there is that program. We have, as a council, approved a resolution, I don't remember the date, that said no new construction will be allowed to have softeners. And when this whole water finally does come to fruition, we will ask that everybody take their softeners off, because or at least change them to the exchange units. because the water will be somewhat softer. We're bringing in a surface water supply, which is typically softer than a groundwater supply, and we're going to blend it with our current wells. So it won't be totally soft, but it will be softer than it is now.
Right, that's a prohibition.
Yes.
On brine producing softener.
Yes.
That's an ordinance, is the city law.
Yes. Sorry, I said resolution, an ordinance, yeah.
Question over here.
Go ahead, I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
one question. Under design engineering, I think you take into consideration when you're going to put this pipeline during the winter months, when it's a wet season, the water level is about 3 feet, and when it's a dry year, it's about 6 feet. So you might want to check that out before you start putting the pipeline in. If you get water, when we get the subdivision down there on the backside of my island, it's out 3 feet, and it all comes with water.
The surface water, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right. I believe they have, Gabe can speak to that. We have come across high groundwater. We also have to cross the San Andreas Fault and some other hazards. That's where the blue valve goes too, right? That goes right at Prescott Road. Gabe, can you want to speak to that?
You know, I can't hear the question. Can you repeat it?
She's asking a question about the high groundwater, especially as we go across San Juan into Prescott and in that direction. Does our pipe account for that? It's a polyurethane pipe, right?
Yeah, our design and the budget estimates include some provision for dewatering as the pipe is built. You know, we're going to dig a trench. In the bottom of the trench, it could be mucky based on the high groundwater level. And so they'll have to have provisions through construction for pulling that water out in order to create a stable pipe bedding and backfill. But once the pipe is built, the high groundwater won't have any effect on it. Is that the question? Did I answer the question?
Yes.
Yes, thank you. Thank you.
Okay.
And we have Juan Candelaria is online.
Hey, Juan, you have another question or comment? Please unmute yourself. Thank you.
I do. Just a quick question around some of the statements in the original notification. You mentioned that the rate increases or the rates themselves as fixed rates collected by the city can only be used to fund these services and cannot be used by the city for any other purposes. I guess the question I have is, will this money be going into the general fund anyway, or is there a separate escrow type of account? What kind of accountability will we have for the management of those funds? And will we have access as to that money being spent, how it's being spent, where it's being spent, you know, and at what rate, so to speak? I'm just curious. You're saying you can't use it, but wanted to make sure that there was anything, if there was anything in place that ensured that.
Right. So we'll be coming forward with our audit in the next few weeks for the year ending June 30th. And that audit has a whole separate section on what we refer to as enterprise funds and all the revenues received either in connection fees for capital improvements or by ratepayers for both water enterprise fund and sewer enterprise fund are captured there in that one place. And so these will not be mingled with, in fact, it's against the law to commingle these with general fund.
Thank you.
Sorry, just kidding. Does anybody else have any other questions, comments, or concerns?
Are we going to have open meetings now?
We're working towards that. It will be something like this. And you saw the technical difficulties we have had so far. So yes, we're working on upgrades to the council chambers that will help us. The council chambers are smaller. We're working on hybrid meetings. Yes, short answer, yes, we're working on hybrid meetings. Comment and yeah, we're working on that too. Yes. as soon as we get the council chambers all set up, and we have been working on that for a couple of months now as well. If we can go through the council members for any other questions, comments, or concerns. Mary, do you have anything to say, or anything you want to ask or questions?
Well, you know, I wanted to kind of highlight some of the questions, and they've all been answered. So, but I do want to thank everybody that attended and for taking the time to come to this meeting or town hall meeting. And I'd like to thank Eric and Tony and Mark and Dimitri, Gabe. Thank you so much for helping us out and the presentation, and Dawn also for the explanations that you gave. And I do have just one question, and I think this would probably be to Eric. I think, Eric, you do the financing part of it, of the surveys, the rate surveys or studies. Is it you?
I did the rate study, yes.
Yeah, and I'm just curious, you know, right now we're talking about the sewer treatment plant, but will there be a rate study for when we begin on plans for the West Hills water?
When
looking for another increase in rates?
Yes, you will. So when we did this initially, we were looking at water and sewer. We looked at the water, and the current water rates are sufficient to pay for operations as they are now, but not, you know, but they'll need to be increased to pay for the connection project. You know, they aren't really covering the capital costs. It's basically sufficient to pay for the ongoing operations of the current water system. But we're recommending that you do a rate study, but do it when the costs for the project are known, and what the county will charge for the water it sells to the city is more clear as well.
Okay, thank you. And then I just wanted to encourage the people that came, if they want to protest, they can. The instructions are in the frequently asked questions, and if they're so very adamant about against this project that we're doing, they need to speak up now, and don't sit back, because silence means that you accept. So anyway, that's all I have to say, and thank you to everybody.
Thank you very much. Cesar?
No questions, but I'd like to thank everybody for all the hard work that they did. I mean, it's a lot of information to put together. I also like to thank the people that showed up, the speakers. You know, your concerns are very important. They're taken into consideration for all the decisions that we make. Thank you.
Thank you. Scott?
I just want to say what Cesar said. I thank everybody for coming. And then to the one question that Jackie had about the streets and stuff, Don, correct me if I'm wrong, but 3rd Street was all new water system, sewer system. So, or no, 3rd Street right here.
Yeah, it's the latter part.
This new section right here. So that was a big chunk that started, and then that 4th Street, Washington Street, you know, a few years back, when I think Punkin and Laveroni and I think Priscilla Hill were on, that was another big chunk that was done also. And that was almost 2 blocks. So some of the stuff is being done, and that was something I squawked about because we were supposed to get some money from the feds, and I asked for 1st Street around the community center be upgraded, because I know that's a 2-inch pipeline, and I doubt if it's 2 inches anymore. It's probably down to a 1/4 inch by now. Yeah, your concern is valid. Thank you, and thank all the players in this. A lot of numbers flying around. I start hearing millions, my stomach hurts. So I'm with you. So thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
John?
Yes, thank you. Thank you to all of you who came. It's really great to see you all. Thank you to the Zoom audience. Once again, the questions have been great. I do have a couple of questions for Stantec. They're technical questions. So what pressure is the force main system going to operate at?
Oh, you get it. Can you hear me? I'm on, right? That's a detailed question. Do I dare to try to remember the pressure? It's pretty high at San Juan Bautista because it's lower in elevation than Hollister, and then there's 7 miles of friction to overcome. I don't remember. I don't remember what it is. It's, I don't know, a 90 psi. I forget. I have the number. I can get it to you, but I don't know the number.
So the next question follows. So my next question is, can PVC pipe hold up to that type of pressure for 40 or 50 years?
Yes, it could.
Okay. I was just wondering, and if it is doubled in price, might you consider ductile iron, which may not have doubled in price? I don't know the prices. Okay, so I'm just asking. I think it will hold pressure better, and there could be a lot of surges in our system because San Juan Bautista loses electrical power on I'd say fairly regular basis, and that's going to cause the force main to lose its pressure, and the water will kind of come running back if you don't have some backflow preventers or yeah. I'm just asking.
Well, hey, those are good questions. And right now the idea is to use high density polyethylene pipe, HDPE pipe, because it's completely immune to any corrosive forces that metallic pipe would have or PVC would have with metallic fittings or restraints. It's a really good product. And it's very durable with respect to surges. It has, and there is backflow prevention, so water will not reverse direction if power shuts off, and there is backup power at the proposed pump station. So it is a good solution, but your point to question alternative materials is valid, and we can work with Don to consider putting in alternatives such that we can get a bid that has the lowest cost pipe product in it. Ductile iron is an amazing product. It does corrode over time. And we do have a geotech report. I forget, but I think it indicated that the soils were mildly corrosive. So that's just sort of a long-term factor. But we can look at that.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that. I have one other large comment. It's to the people who really aren't in the room. That would be the county RMA director. And so I had to ask him, why are you requiring us to place the pipes down the middle of the road because you think that there's too many underground utilities on that road? There are no, let me repeat, at least according to Colin, no underground utilities. There's no gas, there's no water, there's no sewer, and the electricity is on poles overhead. So we should be able to build the pipeline down the, what do you want to call it, the edge or the shoulder of the road. Because what Mike is asking us to do, Mike Chambliss, the RMA director, is asking us to do is to fix his roads for free. He gets his roads fixed for free at our expense. And that expense is $750,000. So I'd like to save that $750,000, put the pipe down the edge of the road. It's going to be fine. There's no gas lines. There's no water lines out there. Everyone's on their own well. And the power is overhead. So Mike's concern about running into underground utilities is not valid. So I'll just say that. And we need to save that $750,000 for our own project to lower the cost, to return the money to the ratepayers, and just to make it better. That's all. Thank you very much. Thank you, everybody. I appreciate you all coming.
Thanks, John. That's a great point. Thank you all. We really appreciate the time that you have taken to come here and to actually ask questions, and they are all valid questions. We appreciate that. Please pass it on that we have another meeting on December 14th. talk to your neighbors. Like Councilmember Edge says, if you oppose this, send in your the Prop 218 notice, fill it out, send it in. Either way, let us know how you feel. Thank you all for the presentation. We appreciate the time that you have taken to come here. We'll see you all in a couple of weeks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Sorry, Gabe. Sorry we were so late.
Good night, everybody. Thank you. Thank you, Juan.
We need a move to adjourn?
What? I said, did you forget Dawn?
Did we need a move